So again, my name is Emily Clark. I am the training coordinator at Quasi. So I'm kind of one of the Quasi contacts in regard to the NFIE. Today we have a presentation from Dr. David Maidman, who's going to give kind of a little NFIE in a nutshell overview. Dr. Andy Ernest from the University of Alabama is going to talk about the facilities and resources that will be available to NFIE participants at the University of Alabama. And then today we have Dr. Valocchi, who is at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and is also the Quasi chair of the board. So he's going to talk about the NFIE Resident Summer Institute application. We'll then review the schedule of the upcoming NFIE webinars, and we will take a question and answer session at the end. So currently, participant phone lines have been muted just to cut down on background noise, but if you have a question at any time, feel free to enter it into the chat box, and if we don't get to it during the presentation, we will address it at the end. So with that, Dr. Maidman, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your help, Emily, with this webinar. So I'm going to begin with just a quick summary of what we're intending to achieve in the NFIE, and I've also prepared a paper which is connected to the Quasi website that summarizes the main technical program or technical background that we want to cover in the NFIE. So first I'm going to present that as Emily said, and then Andy Ernest is going to follow me, and then Al Valocchi is going to follow that, and then we're going to have some advertising about our upcoming webinars for the NFIE. So this is a presentation that I call NFIE in the nutshell, which just means this is my short summary of what I think the main points are that we're dealing with. The opportunity is that the National Water Center has been established on the Tuscaloosa campus of the University of Alabama by the National Weather Service and federal agency partners, and it has a mission to assess hydrology in a new way at the continental scale for the United States. And that is a photograph of the facility. I've used an artist rendition in past webinars, but you can see National Water Center that's chiseled in the plinth over the door there. It's a very beautiful facility. The partnership with the academic community has been sponsored or is sponsored by the National Weather Service, and they have joined with Quasi to conduct a one-year National Flood Interoperability experiment that includes a summer institute that we're going to hear more about today. This is Barbara Minska that you see here and her students at the University of Illinois. And this Summer Institute is going to be for students and faculty at the National Water Center from June the 1st through July 17th of this year. Our goal is to close the gap between national flood forecasting and local emergency response, and to try to demonstrate forecasting of flood impacts at the stream and street level. And that has two pieces. One of them is a weather and hydrology piece, which will be continental in scale and seamless across the continental United States. That will be based at the National Water Center, and then the river flooding and emergency response piece, which deals with local, state, and regional agencies, individual citizens, and so on, that will be customized for individual communities that are at particular locations. In doing that, we are making a couple of assumptions here. The first is that we are doing high spatial resolution hydrologic modeling at the continental scale, and we're building on a national geospatial framework for hydrology, which we're calling NFIE Geo, that divides the continental landscape into 2.67 million local catchments, each with a single stream reach. And those stream reaches connect to form a national stream network, and there's 2.67 million catchments of average area 3 square kilometers and average reach length 2 kilometers. And you can see a little example on the left-hand side there with a catchment that's numbered 8783667. So the flow line is that number and the catchment is that number. And there's 2.67 million connected such catchments across the continental United States in the map that you see on the right. And we have succeeded in computing flow simultaneously in all of those. The conceptual framework for the NFIE is in these 5 parts. The NFIE Geo that I just introduced is a geospatial framework for hydrology, and NFIE Hydro that I'll mention in a moment is our national high spatial resolution hydraulic forecasting model. Now here, the NFIE Geo is pretty much already set at the national scale. The federal agencies are providing the information for us, but the hydro model is still lots of alternatives that we'd like to test, and we'll have a functioning system that works for the NFIE Summer Institute, but we'd like to look at alternative models and combinations of things that would be able to achieve the same result, perhaps with better accuracy than the ones we've got so far. So the left-hand side of this diagram is the national scale, and the right-hand side is at the local and regional scale. And then NFIE River is river channel information and real-time flood and inundation mapping. It deals with the water surface elevation and the spread of water. And finally, NFIE Response, which is wide area planning for flood emergency response. And I have here with me, again, Harry Evans, my colleague, is the former Chief of Staff of the Austin Fire Department, who's working with us to guide that part of the effort. And all of this is underlain by NFIE Services, which is web services for flood information, primarily for forecasts, observations, and weather information from the National Weather Service. This is NFIE Geo for a county, and I see Cindy Castro is on the phone here. She is a student who's in our flood forecasting class here at UT Austin, and this week I gave out an assignment, which is given at the bottom of the link is given at the bottom of the page here, to construct a NFIE Geo database for Travis County, which is the county that we are in here in Austin. You can see this wonderful map that she prepared, and the data that are available to support NFIE Geo permit this kind of mapping to be done in any county of the country. And so those who want to participate in the NFIE might want to look at this exercise and construct a map like this for the area that's local to your university. So thank you, Cindy, for doing that. It's a county subset of the National Geospatial Layers. Across the country, we are connecting weather and model forecasts, primarily the high-resolution rapid refresh model of the National Weather Service that produces weather and precipitation information, with a land atmosphere model, which is NOAA MP, and the WRF Hydro Framework, which produces runoff. That goes to channel flow routing, that you see here for the Mississippi Basin, but we're doing this now for the continental US, and the intention is to produce stream flow and probabilistic flood forecasts with ensemble projections, and to do that for all those catchments that we've been discussing. What we're then going to do is to say that each catchment has a flood hazard zone that's defined from the FEMA flood hazard data by intersecting the NHD plus catchments with the National Flood Hazard Layer, that the probabilistic forecast from the NFIE Hydro defines the flood risk, and it will colour the zones according to that risk. And the colour scheme that you see on the right-hand side here is a standard National Weather Service colour scheme that they use in their own flood warnings. So the colour indicates the intensity, extensive inundation of structures and roads, and significant evacuations of people and property. That's the highest one. Then there's some inundation of roads and structures near streams, some evacuations of people and property. That's the next one. Minimal or no property damage, but possibly some public threat. Then the river or stream is approaching flood stage, or the river or stream is below flood stage. So we intend to colour in these little flood risk warning zones that you see here, according to the scheme, through evaluation of the flood response of each particular area. If you want to produce a more complicated solution or a more comprehensive solution than one that's just colouring in polygons, we need dynamic flood modelling and forecasting, inundation mapping in space and time, and that requires LiDAR terrain data, so it can only be done for particular regions, such as in North Carolina, where they have a really wonderful floodplain mapping program, or in Iowa, there's a fantastic Iowa flood information system that's been developed at the University of Iowa, and Witold Krajewski, who's the director of that center, will be making a presentation about it on March the 4th. So there's a really comprehensive methodology that's available in Iowa that we'll learn more about us in that webinar. Now, if we're successful with the NFIE, it will produce forecasts at 2.67 million locations, which is 700 times more the present forecast system, which is shown on the left-hand side of your screen here. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you see the regions where the National Weather Service Regional Weather Forecast Centres presently do forecasts. There's 3,600 of those, and on the right-hand side is what we're proposing that will come out of the NFIE, where that will then be 2.67 million catchments. And that will provide new information at a much more detailed scale than now to help emergency managers save lives and keep people safe. Thank you, Emily, for putting the link for the class exercise in the chat box there. And as I mentioned earlier, we're working with Harry Evans, who's the former Chief of Staff of the Austin Fire Department. Harry told me that he had 1,200 people working in the staff of the Austin Fire Department, and he had to manage the floods that we have here in Austin. And there's a little YouTube video there, which we're not going to play because We're a bit afraid that it might freeze up the screen, but if you'd like to see Harry and myself and Barbara Minsker and some students talking about this work, you can go to that YouTube video, and it's pretty entertaining. I think you'll enjoy it. So that's the end of my story about NFIE in a nutshell, and I've spent the last 5 months really working hard to try to figure out how to conduct this National Flood Interoperability Experiment. And this paper, a Conceptual Framework for the National Flood Interoperability Experiment, is now posted on the Quasi website at the address that you can see at the bottom of the page here. And if you could post that into the chat box as well, Emily, that would be great. And so this is something that's about 20 pages long, and you can read in some detail how I think that we can go about doing the NFIE, and perhaps you can see how you could play a part of that. So with that, I'm going to now turn over to my colleague, Dr. Andy Ernest from the University of Alabama, who's going to talk about the University of Alabama facilities and resources. Take it away, Dr. Ernest.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Maidment. Go ahead, Emily, if you could move the slide, or yeah, there we go. Okay. Being from Alabama, it's hard not to start off with a reference to football, even though we didn't quite make the grade this year as well. But in the inset on the chart that you see on the screen there, you can see that it is actually relatively easy to get to Alabama. We do accept individuals flying from many of the states directly into Birmingham, and it's about a 1 hour drive from Birmingham to Tuscaloosa, which is the football center of the football universe, at least in our mind. For the purpose of the NFIE, for the Summer Institute, we anticipate providing a shuttle service, depending on how spread off the participants will be during the ramp up and the tailing off of the institute. But we anticipate providing some level of shuttle to and from the airport at the beginning and at the end of the institute, and that would be about an hour drive. The worst case in terms of getting to Tuscaloosa, to Alabama, it's about a 2-hop from depending on what origination you're at. Let me go to the next slide here. There we go. In terms of facility, most of the activities at during the Summer Institute are going to be held at the National Water Center, which David showed a photograph of the front. While on in Tuscaloosa, we will have approximately half a dozen graduate students who are physically located or work at the university, who will be available as ambassadors, and they're there to help. Basically, for the most part, they might be able to do some translation from English into Southern. But for the most part, they'll be able to point you in the direction of the bathrooms and help out with logistical supports and so on. The capstone event for the Summer Institute, which will be July 15th through the 17th, I believe, will actually be held on the facilities at the University of Alabama campus to allow for breakout sessions and so on. While on the University of Alabama campus, as our guests, as it were, students participating in the Summer Institute will have access to a plethora of facilities that the University of Alabama students have, including access to a 3D printing facility in the Civil and Environmental Engineering program here, a 3D immersive visualization or partially immersive visualization lab. We will make sure that you have access to a high-performance cluster, high-performance computing cluster at the university, and access to campus-wide Wi-Fi. We are also working out the details to ensure you have access to the Student Recreation Center, and a few other things. In addition to that, during the summer, the University Transportation Services does provide shuttle services to students who are staying on campus during the summer for day trips or trips to the grocery stores and so on. So Summer Institute participants will have access to those facilities as well. There is a little bit of a triangle between the National Water Center itself and the dining hall that students will have access to. You'll actually be provided a meal card that allow you to, if you're a resident Summer Institute participant, that you'll be able to use at the lakeside dining and market, and the dorms, or actually the residence halls that we will be using are actually very new within the last couple of years. They're apartment style, and the only caveat is that you have to bring your own pillows, or as we say here in the South, your own pillars. Interestingly, I'll cover that in the next slide. This is a map of the campus. You can see right here is the National Water Center. The students will be, participants will be housed in either this Riverside apartment complex or this brand spanking new presidential village complex, which faces the Black Warrior River up here. And the dining facilities are right here, this is roughly about 300, 400 feet between the National Water Center and the lakeside dining. So you can literally hop out of bed and be at the National Water Center within 90 seconds if you dress quick. My office is physically located here in this building, which is a stone's throw from the National Water Center. In the previous slide, I had a tongue-in-cheek reference to an old decommissioned insane asylum, which is right here, which has always intrigued me why the university chose to place my office in such close proximity. But that gives you a little bit of background about the campus. That hospital campus is actually being converted to a theater and arts facility in the next couple of years. And that pretty well wraps up some of the more detailed issues with the access to University of Alabama facilities. I'll turn it over to Al Valocchi to talk about the Summer Institute application process.
Okay, thanks very much, Andy. Well, as was mentioned, I'm Al Valocchi, and I'm the chair of the board of directors of Quasi for this year. And Quasi is very excited by this opportunity and is really pleased to play a role in coordinating the NFIE on behalf of the academic community. So just I'll go through some slides. It's going to be open to all graduate students participation. International students are also eligible to apply. And again, always contact Emily Clark if you have some specific questions about your eligibility. The application information is on the Quasi website at the link that's posted there. So there's a PDF, fillable PDF form that you see a screen capture of on the right. So you need to fill that out. We need one-page CV, unofficial transcript, and a letter of, say, endorsement from your advisor who's going to also commit to being your mentor during the Summer Institute, and and then you have a one-page statement of intent that explains kind of why you're interested in participating, what your qualifications are, and how this experience fits into your kind of academic goals. And then what you do, you combine all those documents into a single PDF, and you got to get it to us by the end of the month. So, so that's the plan. In earlier webinars, there was some discussion about a non-resident participation. So maybe graduate students who wanted to stay at back at their own institution and perhaps participate remotely and just come in for the beginning kickoff and capstone event. We're not quite sure how that's going to work, so for now, we're going to postpone the non-resident application process until we see what happens after February 28th. So here are some dates and deadlines. So the application process is now open. So we hope everyone at the end of the webinar will go and get the forms and start the process. February 28th is the end of the application period. We hope to have decisions made by the end of March, and it will be the quasi steering committee that will be responsible for making the decisions on the applicants for the Summer Institute. Then during the period of April and May, the successful applicants will be formed into project teams. So you'll have some idea in advance of what you're going to be doing. And then on June 1st, the Summer Institute will begin. So what do you get if you are accepted into the program? So you will get travel support to cover cost of round-trip transportation to the campus. You'll get to participate in the kickoff and capstone events. You'll have suite-style lodging and meals during the Summer Institute. So and Andy will know more of the details, but I believe these are all single occupancy rooms with shared bathrooms and living spaces. Kind of like if you're at universities, this is the way all the new dormitories are at most universities these days. You'll get to participate in all their training and events during the Summer Institute, and you'll have full access to the NFIE mentors and instructors. And just a few of the upcoming webinars. Emily, do you want to talk about this, or do you want me to?
Sure, or David, maybe? Do you want to mention these upcoming webinars? Okay, well
I can, yeah, I mean, this is February 18th. There's going to be some student presentations. So there's some of the, Fernando and Joseph will be course coordinators, and then I think some additional students will present. So I think that's a good one to participate in to give you some idea of what might go on during the NFIE. And then, as David Maidman mentioned earlier, on March 4th, Vitek Trajewski will talk about the Iowa Flood Information System. And that, I think, is the last slide. So if you have, we'll have a Q&A now, but please contact Emily if you have some other specific questions.
Yeah, one other thing that we should have mentioned there, Al, is that we're going to give the people who are awarded these grants to go to Tuscaloosa a special title. I think it's going to be called NFIE Summer Institute Fellow. It's be a nice thing to put on your resume. You know, you've been a NFIE Summer Institute Fellow for 2015. But not just having it, there's just an award. We're going to have some sort of a name for it too.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Al, Andy, and David. So this is kind of a short webinar, but if anyone has any questions, now's the time to go ahead and type them into the chat box, and we will try to answer them while we're on the line. And then if anyone does have any questions that come up while they are, reviewing application documents or putting materials together, please feel free to contact me directly, and my email is on the screen here. So don't hesitate if a question comes up later on. Looks like we have, let's see. The question from Kay Brubaker that says, thought I heard you say that the student's advisor would be their mentor during the fellowship. Are you bringing the advisors to Tuscaloosa also? David?
That's a good
David,
question.
that was I guess the idea, David, was that their advisor would not come to Tuscaloosa, but that they would sort of stay engaged during the project. Is that the idea?
Yeah, and I think that the general intent is that we'll have this capstone event, which will be from July 15th through the 17th, where everything would be brought together at the end, and we would invite the mentors, to come to the capstone event. There'll also be a kickoff event. I'm not sure that perhaps we'll have that open to others as well. We haven't really figured that out yet, but definitely we want the mentors to be engaged with the process, and I guess we're still figuring out completely how to support that. But Kay, we're very interested to hear your interest and look for guidance from you as to how best to carry this out.
Okay, great. We have another question from Christopher that says, how many days or weeks is the program? So the Summer Institute program runs from June 1st through July 17th.
Yeah, so it's a 7-week program.
So another question from Solomon, who asks about travel support and if we would support international travel costs as well.
Well,
so the answer, go ahead.
Go ahead, Emily.
The answer is yes, we will support international travel costs, but there may be a cap on international travel. So we kind of have to, within reason, I guess. And David, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think particularly for Solomon, it's important because he's at the UNESCO IHE institution in Delft, and we really want to encourage participation from that organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So any other questions, just go ahead and type them into the chat box. We'll wait a few more moments while people are typing.
Emily, there was a question early on that I responded to in the chat box regarding access to IT or network services while they're here. And I think the response to that is they will have, I'm certain that the Weather Service will be providing network access while in the National Water Center itself. Students will also have access to Wi-Fi and general network access on the UA campus. If anybody wants or needs anything more than that, for example, to create a wiki page or have temporary storage during the duration of the experiment, something that the University of Alabama Information Technology Infrastructure can provide. Be sure to kind of annotate that in your application, and we will do everything we can to make it happen. Things like storage and access, standing up wiki servers and things like that are things we can do off the bat. So that's those types of services we can provide very easily.
Okay, great. And another question from Kay that says there's no stipend, and is that correct? So Kay, yes, that is correct. So it will include the room and board, meals, all aspects of the Summer Institute training program, but there will not be a stipend on top of that. And another question from Nathan who says, oh, not a question, just responding to the question about server access. Who says, we plan to propose developing web applications as part of our project. We may need access to web servers to host the web applications on.
That we can do that right off the bat, no problem.
Okay, and so then Kay just brought up the point that some students may need to pay rent at home while at the summer institute, which is a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, we discussed the possibilities of doing stipends for students, and it's not so much a matter of the money, there's also a lot of complications about dealing with individual cases and individual appointments, and whether health insurance is kept continuously, and whether the student's international or domestic. And anyway, after a fairly considered debate, we decided that we'll just go with providing the board and travel expenses and so on, and hope that the students can be supported from their home institution for their stipend.
Okay, great. So I don't see any more typing in the chat box. But again, if anyone thinks of a question, please feel free to contact me. And if there are no more questions, I think we can go ahead and end it here. But again, thank you, David and Al and Andy, for presenting. And again, at Quasi, we are really excited about this program and this opportunity. So we are looking forward to your applications starting to come in over the next couple weeks.
And just to reiterate again, in 2 weeks' time, Fernando Salas and Joseph Gutenson, who are the student coordinators for the NFIE, will be presenting a webinar from the student perspective, and we'll be engaging others who are already working out projects for participation in the NFIE to show you the kind of things that they're working on and what could be possible. So we'll look forward to that too.
Thanks to everyone for participating.
Thank you all.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.